Hello everybody, I just wanted to do a demo for chalk pastel techniques so that you can watch this as many times as you want and practice until you feel comfortable with them. There's quite a few techniques and all of them help to create different textures. So when you're looking at your landscape photos, you can decide after practicing with them which ones can be or best going to be applied in specific areas of your artwork. So you've created a slideshow of 5 different landscape photos, and I've helped you pick the best one that has maybe the best balance of foreground, middle ground, and background. This is a photo that I took. It's in Central California, and I also chose a reference by an Impressionist artist in order to help me with mark making and color choices, because you're not going to be able to use black. I know like some of these areas look like there's black being used, but it's not. It's actually a really dark purple, and some of these other areas is a darker blue. So I'm just going to kind of show you my process that I used in order to create this using the slideshow, because you are not going to only be using chalk pastels, but you're also going to be using tempera paint underneath, and then chalk pastels are going to be really used to sort of embellish and just create some extra more impressionistic textures. So here we are. I did my basic sketch in a really light pastel. The reason why we're not going to be using pencil is because it doesn't cover it as easily with pastel, but if you want to use pencil, that's fine. Just make sure you cover up that pencil when you're using your tempera paint. So you always start in your background, and the reason why you start in the background is because you want to make sure that these areas are done before you do this, or else if I started in my foreground, then I'm going to be painting in my blue all around here, and I'm not going to be able to be really loose in that area. So you always want to start with the area that's behind objects and then slowly work your way forward. Just like I started with a really dark green here, and then I worked my way forward to the light yellow flowers, which you'll see later on. Okay, so there it is. I'm starting to block in some just main colors, maybe like little tiny details here and there, maybe some little impressionistic strokes, but other than that, just focusing on matching some colors. Slowly working my way forward towards that middle ground. And now I've started in this sort of main hill area here. But according to the photograph, it's really dark shadows underneath those lighter areas where we see stems and flowers. So you want to make sure you have that darkness there blocked in. So this is like a really dark green. I think I had violet in it too. So you can see just kind of process how this tree went from that to something that's a really dark shadow to get that depth to it, and then working in highlights as we come forward. And then last step would be to add in any other details with pastel and tempera paint. So there's a detail of that. And you can see, that last little brighten it up with some pastel, some extra mark making, just to make it look real impressionistic. So let's learn some techniques. You can do a lot with pastel. I've done a lot of work with pastel. I've learned a lot from it. It's a very versatile medium. Allows you to cover areas really quickly, but it also allows you to layer color and create lots of little details. So something like this is a lot more blended. And then we've got these sort of feathering techniques here, a lot more scumbling, kind of loose, kind of scumble there. Stippling is like little sort of dots of color. And then we have a side stroke, which would be like that main sort of blue side stroke that's coming in over there. Okay, so these are Prismacolor Nupastels. So they're a little bit more of a firm core to them, rather than some soft pastels that really break apart very easily. There is black in here. Just be careful, we're not using black for this project. I haven't decided whether or not I want to take it out or not, but we'll just pretend that it's not there for now. So with blending, we're going to pick maybe like 1 or 2 colors that we want to blend together. And blending is pretty simple. All you need to do is some layering. So I'm going to just break this guy in half. I'm going to do some layering with blending technique. So I'm going to start with maybe this guy, this sort of yellow-orange here. And you can see a lot of this chalk is starting to build up a little bit. You're going to want to keep that chalkiness right there because you'll end up blending it out. And then I'm going to take my orange and then I'm just going to sort of layer this over. And already, even if I sort of tap down that, it is blended together. I can even go back in with my lighter color to help them blend even more, and now it's created a little bit darker of a yellow-orange. There's another type of blending that you can do also with your fingers. Yes, you're gonna get messy in this project, so if you are a person that likes to keep their fingers clean, I would buy a pack of those like vitamin E face washes, or even baby wipes work really well. And if you want to keep some baby wipes on top of your cabinet with your name on it, then that's fine with me. So with finger blending, I like often use my pointer finger, but sometimes I use my ring finger or even my pinky to get into smaller spots. What I do is I either like push up my skin so it's taut and it's not like wiggling around, or I pull it down a little bit. It's gonna be up to you. But because we're doing such a big area, we don't need to do any of that. And we just take our finger and we just sort of blend it in. Okay. So we never want to blow the pastel dust into the air. So if you need to tap it off, what you can do is you can carry your paper over to one of those red trash cans and you can just sort of tap it into the trash can and it will come off. I'm not bothered by it right now. There's other blending that you can do. You can start with this guy and then layer. And you can use a little portion of a paper towel. So what I do is I just wrap that guy around my finger like this, and now it's got a protective surface and I can blend that way. I don't think it blends as well, but if you are a person that has lots of moisture on your fingers, this might be a solution for you, so that you're not getting a lot of oils into your drawing. Okay, there's another one too, in case you have like a super small area. So maybe let's like bring it into a point or something. I'm gonna layer that guy over. Q-tip. Q-tips work too for blending. So that would be blending. So again, we've got, I'm gonna label it here for you guys. We've got layering, we've got finger, we've got like tissue or a paper towel, And we have Q-tip. Okay. So now that I'm done with the blending and I'm gonna use different colors maybe. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna tap this off into my trash can. There we go. All right, and you don't wanna like try to sweep it off because then it's just gonna extend over into any area that you use. So now we've got feathering. Feathering's a really good technique for deep grasses and layering, things like that. So when we do feathering, I'm gonna pick maybe this blue, and I'm going to pick maybe a dark blue, and I can even layer some other colors in there too. So maybe I'm gonna layer in this really light blue too. Maybe I've got some like bluish kind of grasses going on. And you can make that decision, like maybe you want more blues in your grasses. It can be arbitrary color. You don't necessarily have to make the grass green because it's green in the picture. You can insert, kind of shocking or surprising colors like impressionists. So with feathering, it's kind of like layering things together, but you're letting some of the paper exist underneath. I think feathering looks best when you do have a blend, like a finger blend underneath, because then when you layer these colors over it, what ends up happening is you are not having white underneath. It ends up having like a little bit of a background color. And it looks really nice, especially when it's really dark, so it gives it that sense of depth. When I do something like this and I'm using lots of different colors, instead of wiping my hands very frequently, I just use the inside of my palm to get it just a little bit cleaner before I use another color. And then maybe I want some of this dark grass color in there too. Okay, so that's feathering. I'll show you what that looks like in more greens too. So maybe I'd start with like a purple, maybe some brown mixed in there so I get nice dark background. I'm gonna start with a blend. Okay, and then I might work in more like typical green grass kind of colors. You can see like even those really light colors can work really well against that black background, so you can layer these guys pretty well. So maybe I'll do that, maybe some of this like moss green, just like typical grass green color in there. So I'm really loose while I'm doing this. It's not something that I'm trying to make the same mark over and over again. A lot of people make the mistake of like, it needs to look like grass. Like, yeah, this might look like grass that you drew in kindergarten, but this doesn't look like what grass looks like, okay? Grass is, wild. It kind of twists and turns. So with your feathering, be nice and loose and just kind of like flick your wrist, just like the song. Okay, maybe I'll add a little bit of yellow in there just for fun. And voila, now we have feathering. Again, at this point my hands are a little bit dirty. If you have a wet wipe or even like a paper towel that's a little bit moist, you can get that off pretty easily. But again, we're just gonna keep doing more pastel, so it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm gonna tap this over a trash can so I get rid of all this loose pastel. Okay, so the next up is we have scumbling. I like to say, are you ready to scumble? Yes, you are. I know you are. So scumbling is gonna be for like trees, more of like brambly kind of grasses, or any kind of grasses that are like a little bit more wild and not like the straight kind of up and down or sideways grasses, maybe more like a moss. Among like rocks and stuff like that could be good for that too. So scumbling. Again, with scumbling, I'm gonna start with a base. So maybe I will do a terracotta base this time. Let's see how that looks. So I blend it out, because I start with blending. And I don't want to do scumbling and then have to fill in the spots later. So that looks good. Maybe I'm gonna choose some of these kind of earthy colors for my scumble, and then maybe I'll get in some green in there too. All right, so scumble is like really loose. And kind of just like a controlled scribble. But it's really great if you're trying to create this look like it's a branch or like some foliage in your trees. Foliage meaning leaves in your trees. Okay, so this is what a scumble might look like. What other color can I get in there for my scumble? Get some blue in there. So you can really build up lots of colors in there. More of a yellow blend up there. Okay, so that is scumbling. It's a scumble. So if I wanted it to look more like trees. That's what happens when you put your pastels on a nice white piece of paper. So maybe I'll start with something like that. Maybe I'll put some more lightness up in here. And then towards the bottom I might have some darkness. Okay, so that's a great, very impressionistic pastel technique. Next up, we have stippling. So stippling, it's gonna be little sort of dashed marks. And you can get some really cool textures that way. So, you know, dots don't really work with pastels because then it just ends up breaking it apart, but we can stipple sort of in like a dashed stipple. And that way you can build up layers of color in a way that's really bright. And you can see all the individual colors. I'll show you what that looks like too with a base. So say we have a nice dark base. So now I'm using a side stroke right now. Blend that guy out. And I can stipple on top. Remember, we're not dotting. Doesn't work that right really with chalk pastel. So our stipple with chalk pastel is gonna be more of like a dash. And you're gonna see a lot of mark making like this when you look at some impressionist artists. And then again, don't blow the paper or the dust because then it's gonna end up in the air. So you just wanna make sure that you tap off anything. Okay, so that is stippling. Ooh, this is looking really nice. So now side strokes. Side strokes is super easy, you guys. It's a way to cover the area really quickly. So you can do something that's really light, like that, or sort of a medium pressure, or a really heavy pressure. And even that alone creates some really nice mark making and textures. And you can work from there, or you can blend it out. You can add layers of scumbling or feathering. So those are our pastel techniques, chalk pastel techniques specifically. Okay, and you can practice, once you have your photograph, you can practice little areas and get my help so that when you go to do your actual painting and drawing on your paper, you have a little bit more confidence. Okay? So I will pause this video now. Thanks for listening.